The alien council chamber was filled with laughter. The sound was cold, sharp, and carried across the massive hall like broken glass scattered on stone. Tall alien commanders stood around a hologram of a small human ship. Its design was simple, almost outdated compared to the sleek silver cruisers of the alien fleets. To the aliens, it looked more like a floating piece of junk than a warship. They sneered at it, pointing with long fingers and shaking their heads. "This is what humans bring into our system?" one alien commander said, his voice full of mockery. "A broken shell? A child's toy? They dare to call this a ship?" The chamber erupted in more laughter. Younger officers, eager to please their leaders, joined in the ridicule. Some imitated the clumsy design of the human vessel, waving their arms like children, pretending to be the awkward shape drifting through space. Others added cruel comments. Perhaps it is a cargo ship. Perhaps it is already falling apart. But not everyone laughed. Among the crowd was a young alien officer who kept his head low. His eyes, dark and thoughtful, stayed on the hologram. Something about the human ship bothered him. It did not look impressive, yes, but there was a quiet weight about it. A sense of hidden purpose. He wanted to speak, to warn his commander, but fear held his tongue. Outside the alien homeworld, high above the glowing cities and oceans, the human ship floated silently. From a distance, it looked small, like a shadow against the stars. The alien fleet surrounded it, their shining hulls reflecting the light of twin suns. Their weapons were locked and ready, though they believed they would not need to use them. In their eyes, this human ship was no threat. Inside the human vessel, silence also ruled. The crew sat at their stations, faces calm but pale. They had heard the open transmissions, the cruel laughter of the aliens who mocked them. They heard every insult, every word of doubt. Some clenched their fists in anger. Others stared at their screens with cold eyes. Yet none of them spoke against the captain's silence. The captain sat in his chair, hands folded, his face like stone. He was not young, but not old either. His hair touched with gray, his eyes sharp and steady. He heard the laughter, but he did not answer. He simply watched the alien fleet on his screen, his expression unreadable. To his crew, his silence was heavy, almost unbearable. "Captain," whispered one officer finally, his voice shaking. "They mock us openly. Should we not respond?" The captain did not move. Only his lips pressed tighter together. The silence stretched and the crew waited, hearts pounding. Back on the alien planet, the commanders drank and celebrated their supposed victory. They saw no need for caution. "Humans are weak," one said loudly. "Their ships are toys, their weapons simple. They are not warriors. They are children playing at war." Another added with a cruel grin. "Let them drift closer. Let them think they frighten us. Soon we will capture their toy and display it in our museums." More laughter followed. To the aliens, this was nothing but a game. To them, the humans were the lowest of species, loud, fragile, and unworthy of respect. But above the planet, the small ship remained silent. Its engines pulsed softly. Its hull glowed faintly as if breathing. The crew waited. The captain's silence pressed heavier with every passing second. Something unspoken filled the air. The young alien officer who had not joined in the laughter finally spoke to his commander in a low voice. "Sir, forgive me, but I do not think we should mock them. Humans are different. They do not fight as we do. They hide their claws until the last moment." The commander burst into laughter again, slamming his fist on the table. "Claws from that pile of rust? Boy, you give them too much credit. Look at them, weak metal, old engines. What can such a ship do?" The officer fell silent, but his heart thudded painfully in his chest. He could not explain why, but a shadow of fear had entered him the first moment he saw that ship. It was the kind of fear that whispered, "Something is wrong." In the human ship's control room, the captain finally stood. His movements were calm, deliberate, like a man who already knew the ending of a story. He looked around at his crew, meeting their eyes one by one. No words were spoken, yet every crew member straightened in their seat. The alien laughter still echoed across the open channels, cruel and mocking. But the captain's silence was heavier than all their words. It carried a weight, a secret, a promise of something the aliens could not yet imagine. And in that silence, something shifted. The stars outside seemed colder. The air inside the ship grew tighter. Even without orders, the crew knew. They were waiting for the moment when silence would break and the galaxy itself would hear the human answer. The aliens thought it was just a weak ship. They did not know what it carried. They did not know what it meant. They would soon learn. The alien fleets drifted around the human ship like wolves circling a wounded animal. Their weapons glowed, ready to fire if the humans dared to act. But inside the alien council chamber, laughter still rang loud, bouncing against the tall crystal walls. To the aliens, this battle was already won. They believed humans had brought their weakest ship into the heart of their empire. But the human captain knew the truth. His name was Captain Elias Ward, and he had carried secrets heavier than mountains. Sitting in his chair, calm and silent, his mind was sharper than the stars themselves. For months he had prepared for this day. His ship was not what it seemed. To alien eyes, it looked outdated and weak. But hidden inside its dark steel hull was a weapon built in the shadows of human science. A weapon whispered about even among humans with fear. It was called the Earth Splitter. The captain remembered the day he had first seen it tested. A beam of pure energy, sharp and endless, cutting through rock like paper, melting metal like ice. The test had been on a dead moon, and even then, it had shaken the entire system. Scientists had begged the leaders never to use it except in desperation. Politicians had sworn it would remain hidden, a secret only to be used if humanity's very survival was at stake. Now, survival was at stake. The aliens had mocked, insulted, and laughed. But laughter could not erase the danger. The humans had been underestimated too many times, and each time they had learned, adapted, and survived. The captain knew this battle would decide more than just one planet. It would decide whether the galaxy feared humans or erased them forever. Around him, his crew waited. Their hands trembled over controls, but their eyes stayed fixed on him. They knew the secret, too. They had sworn silence before they left Earth, bound by an oath that if the weapon was ever revealed, it would not be spoken of again. The room was heavy with fear, but also with pride. They were not here to run. They were here to prove. On the alien homeworld, the young officer who had tried to warn his commander still stared at the hologram of the human ship. His commander laughed and poured more drink, but the officer's heart grew heavier with each second. He leaned closer to the screen, eyes narrowing. Something about the silence of that ship, the steady pulse of its engines, the cold calm of its captain, it was not weakness. It was patience, sir, the officer whispered again. What if they are waiting for us to strike first? What if... His words trailed off, but in his chest the fear grew. Enough, the commander barked. You see ghosts. This is a game. Watch how they break when we press them. But the humans were not breaking. Inside the ship, Captain Ward finally rose to his feet. The crew straightened at once as though pulled by invisible strings. His footsteps were slow as he crossed the command deck, his eyes locked on the massive screen that showed the alien fleet. Dozens of ships glowed in the darkness, their weapons armed, their engines hot. Beyond them, the alien planet turned silently, blue oceans glittering under twin suns. The captain pressed his hand against a control panel. A soft hum filled the ship, so low it was felt more than heard. The crew exchanged quick, tense glances. They knew that sound. It was the weapon waking up, sir, one officer whispered, voice tight with fear. Are we truly going to... The captain raised a hand and silence fell again. He did not need words. His eyes said everything. Yes. The time has come. Outside, the aliens noticed the faint glow rising from the human ship's core. Confusion spread among their ranks. Some thought it was a shield, others a weak weapon trying to charge. They mocked again, laughing at the sight. But the young alien officer's blood turned cold. His voice cracked as he shouted, It is not a shield. They are preparing something. We must... His warning was drowned in laughter. No one listened. Inside the human ship, the captain placed his palm on the final key. The Earth Splitter was awake now, humming like a beast straining to be unleashed. The crew sat rigid, sweat glistening on their foreheads, but none moved. They were bound by duty, by the weight of human history pressing down on them. Captain Ward's voice finally broke the silence. Low and steady, carried through the ship like a storm about to strike. They mock us, he said. They see weakness. They see rust. But they will learn. Today they will see what it means when humanity is cornered. Today they will remember our silence. The crew shivered, but their hands moved to the final switches. Lights across the command deck glowed red. The hum grew louder, shaking the walls. Outside, the alien fleets began to shift uneasily, their laughter dying slowly as they saw the glow intensify. On the alien planet, commanders leaned forward in confusion, their smiles fading. Something in the pit of their stomachs told them the truth too late. The young officer whispered the words no one wanted to hear. They are not weak. They are waiting. And at that moment, the Earth splitter roared to life. The alien council chamber was no longer filled with laughter. The sound had thinned, fading into uneasy murmurs. On the giant screen, the human ship glowed with a strange light. It pulsed like a beating heart, steady and dangerous. For the first time, the commanders frowned. "What is that glow?" one of them demanded, his sharp teeth clicking nervously. No one answered. Engineers checked their scanners, but the readings made no sense. The energy levels were far too high for a ship that small. It was impossible. At least it should have been. Only one voice broke through the confusion, the young alien officer. He stood tall, though fear shook his body. His words came out fast, urgent. "Commanders, listen to me. I warned you before, humans fight differently. They do not show their strength until the last moment. That ship is not what it seems. You must order the fleet to retreat." The commander of the council slammed his fist down, making the table shudder. His voice thundered with pride and anger. "Retreat? From humans? Do you dare shame our empire with such cowardice? Look at them. They hide in silence because they are afraid. They are bluffing. A toy ship painted with fake lights to scare us. That is all." The others nodded quickly, afraid to look weak in front of their leader. The chamber filled with agreement, but deep inside, doubt began to creep into their hearts. Meanwhile, above the planet, the alien fleets tightened their formation. The ships drifted closer to the human vessel, weapons still ready. Their commanders barked orders through the comms, mocking the humans as they closed in. "Send them a message," one alien captain sneered. "Tell them to surrender their toy ship before we crush it." The message flashed across the open channel loud and clear. "Humans, you are surrounded. Your ship is weak. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. We will take you alive." Inside the human ship, the crew sat in silence as the alien voice echoed. Their faces were pale but hard. They did not look at the captain. They did not need to. His steady presence was enough. Captain Ward finally spoke, his voice calm, carrying across the command deck. "They think we are weak. Let them think it a little longer." The crew nodded. No one questioned him. Their hands stayed ready over their controls. Every second felt like a lifetime. The young alien officer, still watching the human ship on the council's screens, felt his chest tighten. He leaned closer, studying the glow that grew brighter, sharper. He whispered again, desperate now, "Commanders, please. You are blind. They are building something inside that ship. Do you not feel it?" The silence, the calm. It is not fear. It is confidence. "They are waiting for the right moment." The commander snarled, waving him off like an insect. "Enough. Sit down before I have you removed." The officer's mouth closed, but his eyes stayed fixed on the human ship. He knew the truth. He could feel it in his bones, even if no one else believed. The glow around the human vessel pulsed again, brighter this time. The alien fleets finally noticed. Their scanners screamed warnings, showing energy levels climbing beyond reason. Nervous chatter filled the channels. "Commander, readings are off the scale. Sir, this cannot be right. This much energy should tear them apart. What if it is a weapon?" But the High Commander only laughed. "A weapon from them? Fire a warning shot. Show them the strength of our fleet." One alien cruiser obeyed, launching a bolt of plasma at the human ship. The glowing fireball struck the hull with a thunderous crack. Smoke rippled for a moment, but the human vessel did not move, did not falter. Its engines pulsed stronger, almost mocking the attack. The alien fleets fell into silence. For the first time, the laughter had died completely. Inside the human ship, Captain Ward's lips curved into a small, cold smile. He pressed his hand against the console, speaking softly so only his crew could hear. "Let them laugh. Let them test us. Soon they will understand." The hum of the earth splitter grew louder, vibrating through every wall, every floor. Lights across the ship shifted from red to a blinding white. The crew swallowed hard, but their eyes were set. They had no choice now. The alien young officer whispered again, almost to himself. "They are going to fire. They are going to do something none of us can stop." But the warning was ignored. Pride blinded the council. Pride deafened the commanders. They could not imagine humans holding such power, and so the fleets drew closer. The planet below turned in silence, unaware of the storm that was about to fall upon it. The human ship glowed like a star. The silence stretched so long it felt like the universe itself was holding its breath. Then, the captain lowered his hand and gave the first order. Prepare the weapon. The alien fleets hung in the void like a wall of silver blades, their weapons glowing with hungry light. Their commanders still believed this battle was a game. They had mocked the humans, they had fired a warning shot, and still the small ship floated silently, glowing brighter with each passing second. To the aliens, it looked like a desperate attempt to scare them. To the humans, it was the sound of destiny waking up. Inside the human ship, the air was thick with tension. Every crew member sat at their station, hands shaking but steady on the controls. Their faces were pale, but their eyes burned with the same fire that lived in their captain. Captain Ward stood tall at the center of the deck, the glow of the screens painting his face in ghostly colors. The hum of the earth splitter filled the air, so loud now that it rattled their bones. Power level stable, whispered the chief engineer, sweat dripping down his forehead. Core is ready, Ward nodded slowly. His eyes locked on the image of the alien planet filling the main screen. Oceans shimmered, mountains rose high, cities gleamed with towers of light. Millions of aliens lived there, laughing, working, mocking. For them, humans were weak creatures from a forgotten corner of the galaxy. For them, this was a show. Ward's jaw tightened. His voice was calm, steady, like the sound of a blade sliding from its sheath. Target their planet. Fire a single line across the surface. Let them see. The crew obeyed instantly. Fingers danced across panels, switches clicked, and the glow of the ship reached its peak. Outside, the alien fleet shifted nervously. Scanners screamed warnings as energy levels climbed higher than their charts could measure. Captains shouted in confusion. Some ordered shields raised, others laughed nervously, still refusing to believe. Then the silence broke. With a sound like the tearing of the heavens, the earth splitter fired. A beam of light, pure and endless, shot out from the human ship. It was not like plasma, not like missiles, not like any alien weapon. It was a line of burning white energy, sharper than any blade, stretching down toward the planet below. It cut through the clouds in an instant. On the alien world, day turned to blinding light. Oceans boiled where the beam touched. Mountains split apart. Cities shook like leaves in a storm. The ground screamed as a line of fire tore across the surface, carving a scar so deep it reached the planet's core. In the alien council chamber, silence fell. The commanders stared, mouths open as the hologram showed their world breaking. Their laughter was gone. Their pride was gone. All that remained was horror. One whispered, almost choking on his words, "Impossible." Another stumbled back, shaking his head. No ship, no species could. But the truth burned across their planet. Above, in the human ship, the crew sat frozen in shock. The beam faded slowly, leaving the screen filled with fire and smoke. The line across the planet glowed like a wound. Whole continents were cut in half. For a long moment, no one breathed. Even the humans, who had sworn to keep silent, stared at what they had unleashed. The young communication officer whispered, his voice trembling, We split their land in half." Ward's face remained calm, but his eyes were dark. That was a warning. Only a warning. Outside, the alien fleets drifted in stunned silence. Not a single weapon fired. Not a single voice mocked. Their scanners showed the truth. Energy levels beyond anything they had ever seen. Destruction they could not understand. The young alien officer on the council floor was the only one who found his voice. He shouted, pointing at the screen, his words filled with fear and rage. "Do you see now? Do you understand? They are not weak. They carry the power to burn worlds." And you laughed. But the commanders could not answer. They sat in silence, pale and trembling as the realization sank deep. They had underestimated humans, and the price had already been paid. Back inside the human ship, the silence was broken only by the hum of the weapon cooling down. The crew looked to their captain, waiting, afraid of what would come next. Ward's voice was soft but sharp, cutting through the tension. "They needed to see," he said. "Now they know what silence means. Now they know we do not bluff." The officer beside him swallowed hard. "Captain, if that was only a warning, what happens when we strike for real?" Ward's eyes returned to the burning line across the planet. His expression was unreadable, carved from stone. Then, he said quietly, their world will break. Outside, the alien fleets remained frozen, their commanders too afraid to give orders, their ships too stunned to move. Fear spread faster than fire. For the first time in their history, they looked at humans not as weak children, but as monsters holding a weapon that could tear apart the stars. And deep in the silence that followed, every alien heart whispered the same thought. The humans had only just begun. The scar on the alien planet still glowed like fire from the heavens. Smoke rose into the sky, turning the twin suns into red, bleeding circles. Oceans spilled into the fresh wound, boiling into clouds of steam. Mountains fell into the abyss. Cities shook and crumbled, and millions screamed in terror as the ground beneath them opened. In orbit, the alien fleets floated in silence. Their mighty ships, once shining with confidence, now looked like fragile toys compared to the beam that had just carved their world. Commanders who had laughed moments ago sat frozen, their hands trembling above silent controls. None dared to fire. None dared to move. Inside the human ship, the silence was just as heavy. The crew stared at the main screen, unable to tear their eyes away from the sight. They had trained for this moment, sworn oaths of secrecy and prepared for war, but nothing could have prepared them for the truth. They had just scarred a world. They had unleashed a weapon beyond imagination. Captain Ward stood tall at the center of the deck, his face carved in stone. He did not flinch at the destruction. He did not smile. He simply watched, his eyes cold as the void. "This," he said softly, "is only the beginning." The crew stiffened. His words were not loud, but they carried more weight than thunder. They knew what came next. The first strike had been a warning. Now the weapon would show its full power. On the alien homeworld, panic spread faster than fire. Towers collapsed, streets split apart, and oceans swallowed entire coasts. Families ran, children screamed, and soldiers tried to hold order but failed. The line carved by the human weapon stretched for thousands of miles, splitting continents in two. And deep below the surface, something worse began to stir. The planet's core trembled. Alien scientists in the council chamber shouted, pointing to their screens. "The core is destabilizing. If another strike hits, if they push further, our world will..." Their voices broke in terror. "Our world will tear apart." The commander sat pale and shaking. Pride had melted into fear, and fear was turning into despair. Their empire, their proud civilization, was being broken by a single human ship. The young alien officer who had warned them stood trembling, but not from shock. From anger. His voice shook the hall as he shouted, "You ignored me. You mocked me. And now you see. This is not weakness. This is death. They warned us with silence, and you laughed. No one laughed now." In orbit, Captain Ward's voice carried across the command deck like a blade. "Prepare for second strike. Target their core." His crew froze, eyes widened. Some drew sharp breaths, but not one of them spoke against him. They had no choice. They had been chosen for this mission because they could carry the weight of humanity's darkest weapon. "Power levels rising," the engineer whispered, his voice trembling. "Core approaching maximum." The ship hummed louder, glowing brighter until it looked like a star born in the void. The alien fleet stared at it, paralyzed. Some tried to raise shields, some prepared to scatter, but deep down they all knew it would not matter. Nothing could stop the light that was about to come. Then it came. The Earth splitter fired again. This time, the beam did not skim the surface. It shot deep into the wound already carved, striking straight into the planet's heart. The ground roared like a living beast. The skies bled fire. Oceans rose into storms as the crust of the planet groaned and buckled. And then, with a sound like the universe breaking, the planet cracked. A fissure opened across the world, splitting it like glass under a hammer. Continents tore away from each other. Cities slid into molten chasms. The oceans boiled into clouds of steam that stretched into orbit. The screams of billions echoed through the airwaves, desperate, terrified, hopeless. In the council chamber, commanders fell to their knees. Their proud empire, their shining jewel of a homeworld, was breaking apart before their eyes. Some wept, some prayed. Others stared blankly at the screen, unable to believe. The young officer whispered again, his voice hollow, "It is too late. Nothing can save us now." Above, the alien fleet scattered in panic. Ships broke formation, some fleeing, others frozen, but none dared to fire. What use were their weapons against a ship that could tear planets in half? Inside the human vessel, the crew watched in silence as the world below tore open. Some trembled, some cried quietly, but none looked away. They had unleashed the storm, and now they bore witness. Captain Ward's face did not change. His eyes stayed locked on the screen, watching the planet split. When the beam finally faded, leaving behind fire, dust, and ruin, he spoke at last. Now they understand. The crew shivered. His words were not cruel, not angry, but filled with a heavy finality. Humanity had shown its hand. Humanity had proven its strength. And the galaxy would never see them the same way again. Below, the alien planet cracked deeper, its pieces drifting apart like broken stone. Lava rivers poured into the void, glowing against the black sky. A world was dying, and the cause was a ship the galaxy had mocked only hours before. In the silence that followed, fear spread across every star system within reach. Messages left the planet in desperate bursts. The words repeated again and again, carried through the void to every empire and every throne. Do not provoke the humans. And still, the human ship hovered silently above the broken planet. Glowing like a judge in the dark, the lesson had only just begun. The planet was no longer whole. Where once oceans sparkled under twin suns, now great rifts bled fire into the sky. Whole continents drifted apart, sliding slowly into the void. The once proud jewel of the alien empire was nothing but a broken stone, burning and splitting further with every heartbeat. Above the dying world, the alien fleets floated helplessly. Their ships' shining silver blades only hours before now looked like feathers caught in a storm. Not one fired a shot, not one dared to speak. They hovered in silence, frozen between horror and disbelief. Inside the alien council chamber, silence reigned too. The mighty commanders, once full of mocking laughter, sat pale and broken. Some had collapsed in their chairs. Others stared blankly at the hologram of their shattering world. Their pride, their arrogance, had died faster than their planet. Only the young officer stood, his face pale but his eyes alive with grim truth. He whispered into the silence, his voice like a blade cutting through smoke. They warned us with their silence. And we laughed. Now look at what we have paid. No one answered him. No one could. On the human ship, the silence was just as heavy. The glow of the Earth splitter was fading, its power dimming after the strike, but the echoes of what it had done still filled the ship, pressing against every heart. The crew sat rigid at their stations, eyes locked on the screen, watching the planet split apart. Some wept quietly. Others stared with hollow eyes. They were soldiers, yes, but they were also human, and what they had done was no simple battle. They had destroyed a world. Millions, perhaps billions, were gone. Their screams had echoed through the comms, filling the silence with terror before cutting off. Captain Ward stood tall at the center, his face unreadable. He felt the same weight as his crew, but he carried it differently. To him, it was not victory or triumph. It was survival. He had shown the galaxy what humanity could do when mocked, when cornered, when treated as weak. The price was heavy, but the message was clear. We gave them silence, Ward said softly, his voice carrying across the command deck. We endured their laughter. We endured their pride. But they forced this upon us. Now they will never forget. His crew turned their eyes toward him. Some nodded, others lowered their heads, but none questioned him. They knew he spoke the truth. Humanity had not started this war. Humanity had only answered. Outside, the alien fleets finally stirred. Ships turned away from the human vessel, engines burning as they fled into the void. None dared to stay. None dared to face the ship that had split their world. Fear was stronger than any order. Fear drove them away like shadows before fire. In the council chamber, the silence was broken by desperate voices. Commanders shouted over each other, some demanding surrender, others begging for allies, others calling for retreat. But deep down, they all knew it was useless. Their empire's heart had been destroyed. Their fleets had been humbled. And the galaxy had witnessed it all. Messages flashed across the stars, racing to distant empires, to rival thrones, to every corner of space. The words repeated again and again, desperate, fearful, undeniable. Do not provoke the humans. Do not mock them. Do not test their silence. The young officer stood in the chaos of the chamber, his voice rising above the panic. This is not just the fall of our world. This is the rise of theirs. The humans have shown us all. The galaxy will never laugh at them again. Above the broken planet, the human ship hovered like a shadow of judgment. It did not move to chase the fleeing fleets. It did not fire again. It simply waited in silence, glowing faintly as if watching, as if warning. Inside, Captain Ward gave no order to pursue. His voice was calm, heavy with finality. "We are done here. Let the galaxy spread the message for us." The crew released shaky breaths. Some lowered their heads in silent prayer. Others wiped tears from their faces. But they obeyed. Engines powered up, and the ship slowly turned away from the burning ruins of the alien world. Behind them, the planet cracked deeper, its halves sliding further apart. Firestorms raged across the surface. Seas boiled into the sky, and cities fell into endless chasms. A civilization had been erased in less than an hour, and yet the galaxy was louder than ever. Already whispers spread across distant stars carried by terrified survivors and fleeing ships. Whispers that would soon turn into legends. They spoke of the human ship, the ship they mocked, the ship that split a planet in half, and in every corner of the galaxy, rulers and empires trembled at the thought. If this was only one human ship, what happens when the fleets of Earth rise together? The silence after the storm was not peace. It was fear. It was the sound of a galaxy realizing it had woken something it could never control. And in that silence, humanity's name began to change. From weak, from mocked, to feared, to untouchable, to legend. The alien world burned behind them, split wide like a broken stone. Oceans poured into the abyss. Mountains crumbled into rivers of fire. And the twin suns reflected off clouds of smoke that stretched into the void. What had once been the heart of an empire was now a graveyard. The silence across space was heavy, suffocating, as if even the stars held their breath. The alien fleets had scattered, fleeing into the darkness. Not one ship dared to turn back. Not one commander dared to face the human vessel again. Messages rushed across the galaxy. Frantic warnings sent on every channel to every empire, to every ruler who might listen. And though the words changed, the meaning was always the same. Do not provoke the humans. Inside the human ship, the crew sat quietly, the weight of what they had done pressing down like stone. Their hands trembled as they worked, their eyes fixed on their captain. Captain Ward stood at the center, silent, unmoving, his face lit by the faint glow of the screens. He had not smiled when they struck, and he did not smile now. His calm presence was heavier than fear, heavier than pride. One of the younger officers whispered, breaking the silence. "Captain, what now? Do we return home?" Ward's eyes narrowed as he looked at the broken planet on the screen. His voice came slowly, steady and cold. "No, we wait. They must hear us." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. None dared to question him. They knew what was coming. Humanity had shown its strength in silence, but now words would fall like thunder. Across the galaxy, councils gathered, leaders shouted, and empires trembled. Some demanded vengeance, others spoke of surrender, but all of them waited. Waited for the humans to speak. Waited for the meaning behind the silence. The human ship opened its channel. At first, nothing but static filled the airwaves. Fleets listening across systems leaned forward. Commanders straining to hear. Then the voice came. Calm, steady, carrying not just to the alien fleets but across every open channel in the galaxy. "This is Captain Elias Ward of the human ship Vanguard." The name echoed across systems, repeated by translators, carved into memory. "For years you mocked us. For years you called us weak. You laughed at our ships, you spat on our silence, you treated us as less. We warned you not with threats, not with anger, but with quiet. Still you laughed." The crew sat rigid, their captain's voice filling every corner of the deck. The galaxy listened in silence, frozen by his words. "Today you have seen our answer. Not because we desired war, not because we sought conquest, but because you left us no choice. You tested us, and now you know." On distant worlds, rulers shivered as the words carried across their chambers. Soldiers froze in their barracks. Civilians stopped in the streets to listen, their screens glowing with the human broadcast. Ward's voice did not rise in anger. It did not shout. It carried the weight of quiet truth, heavier than any scream. "We are human. We are not the strongest. We are not the oldest. But we endure. We endure mockery. We endure wounds. We endure silence. And when we rise, when we finally answer." He paused, his eyes cold as the void. "We do not rise halfway." The crew held their breath. The galaxy leaned closer. Ward's words cut like a blade. "You saw one ship, One weapon, one strike, and already a world has fallen. Remember this when you think of humanity. Remember what silence can mean. The channel went quiet for a moment. The pause was deliberate, long enough for the galaxy to feel the weight of every word. Then the captain spoke once more, his final message carrying like thunder. Never mistake silence for weakness. Never mistake patience for fear. If you mock us again, if you push us again, the galaxy itself will crack as your world has cracked. This is our last warning. The broadcast ended across the galaxy. Silence followed. No one spoke. No one laughed. Every empire, every council, every fleet felt the same chill crawl down their spines. The humans had spoken. The humans had shown. And now the humans were feared. Inside the ship, the crew finally breathed again. Some wept in silence, others bowed their heads. The captain said no more. His message was finished. His words would echo across the stars without him needing to repeat them. Slowly, the ship turned away from the broken planet. Its engines glowed softly as it slipped into the void, leaving behind ruins, silence, and fear. In the darkness of space, legends were born. Whispers spread faster than light. They spoke of the ship the galaxy had mocked. The ship that split a world in half. The ship that carried silence like a weapon sharper than any blade. And the name of humanity changed forever. From fragile, from weak, from mocked, to untouchable, to feared, to legend, the galaxy would never laugh at them again.